Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Carving It Up Live right here on Twitter, as well as the Carving It Up YouTube channel and the Grid Network YouTube channel. As always, I'm Bryson Carver, and week one's here. We had a lot of games. I am still trying to process what happened to my Pittsburgh Steelers yesterday. It was no fun. I'll give a reaction to that in my third segment. I'll just put it that way. By the way, Eagles Patriots. I figured it'd be a more fascinating game than maybe some might think. I actually did see, although I saw a lot of people predicting Patriots +4, betting Patriots +4. Those who did that, man, my condolences to you, because that's got to be, especially that 2-point conversion in the fourth quarter. You got to be just kicking yourself right now. I'll talk about the Eagles and the Patriots. By the way, people are freaking out and overreacting to Mac Jones. They're not overreacting as much to Jordan Love, but this almost made carving up the context, but I'm like, I'll just save carving up the context for Wednesday. This needs a little bit of context in terms of what he did yesterday against the Chicago Bears. I'll discuss that. Also, Dolphins, Chargers, probably the big game of the day yesterday in Los Angeles. Unbelievable quarterback duel between Tua and Justin Herbert. And a factor in that football game that it goes back to something I've said all offseason, that is the most under-talked about, under-discussed, rather, subject regarding football, and particularly in the National Football League. Gonna get into that. Also, I'll give like little reactions to the other games I don't do whole segments on. And by the way, a little take on Team USA, who did not medal in the FIBA basketball tournament, but this is going to be overwhelmingly, of course, a football show. And of course, the end of the show, the marquee matchup of week one. The Jets, the Bills, Monday Night Football, Aaron Rodgers' Jets debut, real Jets debut, not that preseason game against the Giants. It's the real thing. It's going to be fun. Looking forward to it. But first, oh, wow. The Dallas Cowboys won 40-0 last night. I'm sure you've heard by this point. Looked pretty good, particularly on the defensive side of the ball and on special teams, which is where the game really kicked off for Dallas. Giants get the ball first. Saquon Barkley's running it down the field. Daniel Jones looks fine. He's a little bit, he gets some yards on some of those scrambles. You're like, okay, Giants putting some together offensively. Good little game plan. Then they have a penalty, then a sack that pushes them back from field goal range, and then Dallas gets a kick block, returns it all the way for a touchdown. Again, up to that point, you're like, okay, this might be an interesting Sunday night game. I took Dallas to win and to cover and to win by double digits. Obviously, I could have never in my wildest dreams envisioned this happening, because I know a lot of people are bagging on the Giants today. I'll get to that. To me, this had way more to do with Dallas being really good and maybe better than a lot of people thought coming into the season. Certainly, I don't think any of us, including myself, saw 40-0 coming. Even the biggest Cowboys fan didn't see this. But again, my biggest takeaway overall from this game is obviously Dallas' defense. And listen, under Dan Quinn over the last 3 years, they've gotten progressively better. They drafted well, obviously starting with Micah Parsons. That's where it all starts and ends with Dallas' defense. He was unbelievable. He had they gave him a sack. I think it was just one sack. I thought it sounded like more than that. I thought it sounded like more than that or it looked like more than that for the Giants and for Daniel Jones than what Micah Parsons did to them. But he had 6 pressures. He looked good. But I thought overall for Dallas, it was the thing that stood out to me comparatively to some of the contenders in the NFC. They were absolutely flying around the field. That was probably the fastest Dallas Cowboys defense I think I've ever seen. Again, the only comparison I can think of is San Francisco the last couple of years. San Francisco back in 2019. Some of those Pittsburghs, trying to get some positive Steelers takes in on the show today because there's not that many, so I'm trying to sneak them in. But some of those Steelers defenses back in the day with Troy Polamalu, that's what it reminds me of. I'm not going to go to Legion of Boom. I'm not going to go to 85 Bears. Let's not go too crazy after 1 week. But Dallas, again, they were just better athletes and more fast than the Giants were. And it isn't like the Giants are devoid of good players. Darren Waller's a dang good tight end. I didn't think they used Jalen Hyatt enough, but Jalen Hyatt's one of the fastest players in football. Saquon Barkley is no scrub. He didn't just forget how to play running back. This, to me, had more to do with Dallas playing well. And again, I know a lot of Giants fans are, but even Cowboys fans, NFL fans are ripping Daniel Jones to shreds today. And listen, I'm not going to sit up here and act like Daniel Jones played well. You look at the Daniel Jones numbers, they're about as bad as it gets. 15 for 28, only positive for him as he completed over 50% of his passes. 104 yards, 2 picks. One was really bad to Stephon Gilmore. Pass rating of 32 to QBR 0 to 100 of 8. So it was a bad. I mean, Tyrod Taylor threw 2 passes in garbage time, had a higher QBR than Daniel Jones. That's not great. In all honesty, though, watching that game, Dallas had over 20 pressures. Given how it felt like every time Daniel Jones lined up in shotgun, took the snap, there was somebody coming on the interior. Sometimes it was Parsons. Sometimes it was Odigizua, who had 2 sacks, I believe. Sometimes DeMarcus Lawrence was getting in there. Dante Fowler was coming out the edge, had a big night. Listen, I'm not a Daniel Jones fan. I never have been. I thought the $40 million contract he got was insanity. I didn't know, as I've been saying all offseason, said on my buddies, the Cowboys Camp Fan show, check their show out. They had a blast last night, obviously. A lot of crack if you got 'ems were shouted, of course. But I said on their show, been saying all offseason, I didn't know 15 touchdown passes awarded you a $40 million a year contract. That's neither here nor there. I'm not so sure Patrick Mahomes would have put the Giants in position to win that game last night. He probably would have gotten shut out because he's Patrick Mahomes. He's the best quarterback on earth. But I swear, it felt like every single time Daniel Jones took the snap, somebody was in his face. And so for Dallas, if this is, listen, you're going to have games where you're not as good defensively. Dallas plays obviously much better offenses, such as San Francisco. Philadelphia will get it right. That was a rainstorm. I'll get to the Eagles later in the show. You've got the Chargers, who are good offensively with Justin Herbert. You got some teams down the pipe that can score on you. But if you keep this up, you're not going to shut everybody out, obviously, but if you keep something similar to this up, turning the football over, getting to the quarterback, again, the Giants' offensive line, while young, isn't bad. They looked incompetent last night, and sometimes greatness can do that to you. Dallas is in that conversation with Pittsburgh, with San Francisco. At least those are the top 3 defenses in my view, albeit my Steelers didn't show it yesterday. I believe we'll show it the rest of the year. Dallas is in that discussion to be one of the best defenses in the NFL, and that is something that, again, we talk, all the stories this offseason has been about Dak, has been about McCarthy, been about, obviously, them adding Brandon Cooks, how this offensive line going to look, trying to bounce back from a down season last year. No Zeke. CeeDee Lamb trying to have another back-to-back year. Trying to replace Dalton Schultz, which I don't think is that big a replacement, but that's neither here nor there. We forget about the defense, but again, for Dallas, and now this sort of transitions me to Dak. A lot of folks are kind of going at Dak today and focusing on the resident Dak Prescott defender in all of sports media, podcasting and otherwise. Was Dak mind-blowingly good? No. Why would the Dallas have to ask him to be? I mean, before Dak touched the football, the Cowboys were up 6-0. Before he touched the ball, before the Cowboys offense took the field, they're up 6-0. Led him to a field goal drive. Dallas defense ended up getting a pick 6 off the Saquon Barkley drop. I think that was Deron Bland, who made the play there to pick it off and return it for a touchdown. If you're Dallas, your defense is playing lights out. Why in God's name would you have asked Dak to throw it all over the yard? It's kind of like the kid who gets everything he wants for Christmas, but like that one thing, and he whines and pouts because he didn't get that one thing and totally ignores. He's got like 9 things on his Christmas list, and it's like, boy, this kid's a brat. Like, are you kidding me? Are we like, if that's kind of the way we're nitpicking? Again, if we're going to criticize anybody, it probably should be the New York Giants and the game plan. And by the way, to defend Brian Dable, he was bringing tight ends to try and ship the defensive end on the edges. It still wasn't working. So you essentially had 6 blockers. Sometimes he had Saquon back there, not as much as I would have liked, but sometimes he did. They were flying all over the field. That was as impressive a defensive performance from Dallas as you could possibly ask for. I'm not going to act like the Giants are just a bunch of world beaters, but man, they look good. And they look every bit like a team that I predicted to get to the Super Bowl. Said before this year, obviously I'll get to San Francisco, Pittsburgh. San Francisco looked awesome, much to my chagrin, as they were, it's so ironic, they were the finalists with my Steelers, then they come in and mop the Steelers. Thankfully, though, for Dallas, thank you, Cowboys, a team I used to be a fan of until 2020. Thank you, Cowboys, for ensuring the fact that Pittsburgh didn't have the worst performance of the day. Which you could argue Cincinnati, probably the worst performance. Them in Seattle, we'll get to some of these games later on. But, wow, what a performance for Dallas. They were spectacular. And again, I don't think there's any reason to go at Dak or the offense. It's kind of like Dak and really Mike McCarthy in particular. Mike McCarthy, after a while, kind of treated this like it was, say you're Ohio State or like the Texas game. By the way, Texas beat Alabama. Texas played Rice the week before. I watched that game. They look shaky as a 30-something point favorite against Rice. Why is that? Well, you got Steve Sarkisian. He's not going to give Nick Saban real legit plays on tape. It's going to be a milk toast type game plan. Not going to show anything flashy. You're going to say that for Alabama. Once Mike McCarthy saw the Cowboys defense doing what they're doing, he's like, why on earth would I want to just throw the ball over the field? That's part of the issue with Kellen Moore. And why I was totally in favor of Dallas moving on from him is that so often Kellen Moore will be all about putting up points and trying to make the offensive numbers look good instead of just, you can play conservative. And I'm typically not a play conservative guy, but if you're up 26-0, 33-0, there's no reason to take any massive shots. By the way, Dak didn't get the benefit of the doubt on some drops by some of his tight ends, but listen, it's crappy conditions, it's wet, it's rainy, it happens. That's something that's catching the football is obviously very easily correctable. That's why I don't want to overreact to what Kadarius Toney did last Thursday, but that's where it's at. So for Dallas, the statement win of the NFL season, very young NFL season, of course, thus far. Again, I don't want to act like the Giants or the Kansas City Chiefs, but this was a playoff team that added offensive pieces, and they shut them out. I get it was a rainstorm, but that was impressive. My gosh, we have a lot of comments. People are, I'll tell you, love or hate the Cowboys, man. They draw an audience, and that's why people laugh at them. Why are they America's team? They haven't won in 28 years. You check Cowboy game ratings. You check the strong opinions positively or negatively for Dallas. Today it's either they're going to the Super Bowl, they're going to go undefeated, or they're overrated, they're going to choke at the end of the playoffs. They draw strong opinions. That's why Jerry Jones, I've criticized him as a GM. Man's the best marketer in the NFL, and I don't think it's particularly close. Patrick Brown, big Cowboys fan, pure dominance by my Cowboys defense. You don't say. He said Danny Pennies was running for his life all night long. Again, I'm not. Well, let me get to this comment too. Parnell, also here at the Grid, Commanders fan. He says $40 million for Daniel Jones. I had the Cowboys winning this game, but not this. Let's wait and see with the Cowboys down the road. That's fair. But to the Daniel Jones part, again, I don't look. If Daniel Jones plays this bad next week against Arizona, now we got a discussion. Now we're talking about, man, last year really was a mirage. Brian Dable really did get all of Daniel Jones he could possibly get. But against arguably the best defensive football, who was in his lap seemingly every play, I'm not going to overreact too much. Barry, another big Cowboys fan, in all caps, by the way, for the podcast audience. We in the building. Dallas, Cowboys. Your boy Dak needs to get it together. Looks like crap, Prescott. We here to pillage. And he said you're a Dak apologist. No, I'm just a Dak truth teller. Again, if Kansas City was in this position, I remember I could think of a lot of Kansas City Chiefs blowouts where Andy Reid didn't just open up the playbook for the whole NFL to see. Why did Mike McCarthy do that? Why did Dak Prescott do that? They noticed the shots Dallas took in the game all came early. They took some shots to CeeDee Lamb. Remember, they took one. It was either to Brandon Cooks or Michael Gallup. They took another shot. There's no reason that they treated the Giants like Texas treated Rice. Once Dallas built that lead, why on earth would they have to ask Dak to be Superman? There's no reason for that. No reason whatsoever. Let's see. Parnell says incompetent with the Giants is an understatement. Yeah. Let's give Mike McCarthy credit for his play calling. Again, I'm with you, Parnell, and I think it's... Look, if Dak throws for 150 yards next week against the Jets and the Cowboys lose, 20 to 13, that's a conversation. But I'm not going to, again, why would you be aggressive when there's no reason to be aggressive? You're not going blow for blow. It's not like Daniel Jones going up and down the field and you have to put up points. You don't have to. Barry, Captain Small Hands had no shot talking about Daniel Jones. GM for the Giants is asleep at the wheel. Offensive line looked like a conga line. Giants fans are hiding today, and I'm looking for all of them. Man, I feel bad for our buddy Eric. Eric, who's one of the hosts of the Outside the Cage podcast here on the Grid. Please check their show out. They do a great job. Big Giants fan. In Cowboys fans' defense, Eric was talking a lot of crap this week, and he's got tail between the legs today. I think it's safe to say. Barry says, I agree with you on Kellen Moore. Get that idiot brain out of here, too. We definitely agree there. And Patrick says, my oh Micah, he was spectacular. He was spectacular. He's going to be right back in the discussion for Defensive Player of the Year. Unless my man Nick Bosa, TJ Watt has something to say about it. 3 sacks yesterday. He was the only bright spot for Pittsburgh. I cannot wait to get on the Steelers in the third segment. I'll get to that at some point. But statement win by Dallas, and they're 1-0. This is the first time they're 1-0 in the Mike McCarthy era. Fun fact. Be curious to see what they look like moving forward. Big game next week against the Jets. I cannot wait for that game tonight. By the way. Bills-Jets. Going to predict it at the end of the show, by the way. And by the way, speaking of predictions, not a great week one thus far. That's, I think, 2 straight years that my week 1 predictions have been iffy at best. 7-8. In my defense, I didn't anticipate Sean Payton going for an onside kick to start his Broncos tenure. I did not anticipate Matthew Stafford with no Cooper Kupp throwing for basically 350 yards against a good Seahawks defense and Geno Smith in the offense not be able to get a first down in the second half. I think they only got 1. Week 1's a guessing game in my defense. Here's who is also a guessing game and who we're going to get to in the second topic. Jordan Love looked pretty good yesterday. As a matter of fact, Jordan Love thus far has the highest passer rating in all of Week 1 as the Packers went to Chicago and did what they tend to do, the Chicago Bears, and absolutely waxed them. 38-14 being the final score. Jordan Love vastly outplayed Justin Fields. If you look at the numbers, I apologize. 38-20 was the final score. Bears, got that touchdown, and at the end that meant absolutely nothing. Jordan Love on the day, 15 for 27, 245, 3 touchdowns, no picks, QBR of 73, pretty good, pass rating of 123, very good, actually best of the weekend. Fields, on the other hand, 24 for 37, 216, a touchdown, a pick, QBR of 21, and a pass rating of 78. So he had a rough afternoon. Fields also had 59 yards rushing. Love had 12. So I have been, and Packers fans have really been getting on me over the last couple of weeks to a month about my skepticism of Jordan Love. Basically, my take was, okay, if he was so good, then why with an old Aaron Rodgers who became a headache for the Packers, why is he still backing up Aaron Rodgers? Why are we barely getting to see any glimpses of him whatsoever at practice and games, whatever the case may be? Maybe they just want to hide him to surprise the league. I don't know. The Falcons did the same thing with Desmond Ridder, and Desmond Ridder looked at best yesterday against Carolina. But be that as it may, Jordan Love played very well. Here's why I think we're overreacting a little bit today, because again, he did have the best passer rating. He made some key throws on big 3rd down, 4th down situations. The throw to the tight end, I'm forgetting the tight end's name, they drafted number 88, was really played well, could be a real weapon for Mr. Love. Luke Musgrave, who had that big catch, was, I don't think any receiver in football is more open than he was in that one play in the 4th quarter when Love dropped the snap and then off his back foot just flung it up in the air, and Luke Musgrave essentially fair caught it, so to speak, and the Packers ended up scoring on that drive. 3rd down situations, he was great. 4th down situations, he was great. But what I loved what Jordan Love did was not just the fact that he didn't turn the football over, it's the fact that he played within the offense. Again, but we go to a larger point that, I'm not willing to buy in him quite yet as a true franchise quarterback, as the Packers' future, the heir apparent to Aaron Rodgers, who is the heir apparent to Brett Favre, and continuing this great lineage of great Packers quarterback play. Chicago's defense is awful. And if you remember, over the last month when I was doing this sort of series on each division, every team's biggest strength and biggest weakness for Chicago, I'm like, man, their defense is in a complete rebuild. And when we think about Chicago Bears, we think great defense, obviously think 1985, tough, Mike Ditka, 2006, I think it was, the defense led him to the Super Bowl, Brian Urlacher. Folks, this Bears defense is not your parents' Bears defense. It's terrible. If you look at their numbers from last year, and they didn't really improve this offseason whatsoever. Last season, the Bears, 4th worst in yards given up per game, worst in points given up per game, 6th worst in red zone defense, and worst in yards given up per play. So this is a bad Bears defense, is going to struggle throughout the season, and I worry that Justin Fields would have to win shootouts, and not to defend Fields because he didn't play well. But listen, the Packers gave Love a clean pocket. They gave him a solid running game. Aaron Jones, obviously that was a running play, but Aaron Jones had the breakaway touchdown in the 3rd quarter that really kind of started to blow it open for Green Bay. The thing I worry about, though, with Jordan Love is if you look at the Packers, their schedule moving forward. So they got Atlanta next week. They're actually a 1-point road favorite, which I think is interesting. Atlanta's offense looked Certainly the passing game looked The defense played well, albeit against Bryce Young. Then they got New Orleans. And we saw what New Orleans did to Tennessee yesterday with DeAndre Hopkins. Then they got Detroit. And look what Detroit did to Kansas City. The Raiders, I'm not going to overreact to the Raiders holding Russell Wilson to 16. That's to be expected. Then they got the Broncos. Broncos got a good defense. The Vikings have an improved defense. The Rams. Look what the Rams did to Geno Smith yesterday. Then they got my Steelers. Then they got the Chargers. That may not be as tough a defense as I thought. Detroit again. Kansas City has a better defense than people give them credit for. So there's some tough defenses for Green Bay down the road here that I worry about if once teams and once defensive coordinators start to get film on Jordan Love, if they can adjust to. His arm doesn't blow me away. He's accuracy was a little bit of a concern at times early in his development. Didn't seem to be a problem yesterday. Again, Chicago's defense, I'm not quite sure what their game plan was, given the fact that Christian Watts was out, Romeo Doubs went off. So listen, for Green Bay, this was a situation where Jordan Love wasn't uncomfortable. He wasn't a situation where he had to single-handedly win the game for Green Bay. And look, for quarterbacks, that's the best case scenario. Getting to sit back there with time, deliver the ball on time and on target to his wide receiver, to a guy's wide receivers. But that's not always real life in the NFL. That's something that as time progresses is not going to always be the case for Jordan Love. But give him credit. He did his job. He did what was asked of him. And he certainly outplayed Justin Fields. There's no question about that. And I will have to say, I do owe the Packers an apology in this regard. Or Packers fans. I don't owe the Packers fans an apology about Jordan Love. We've only seen one game of him as the true franchise quarterback. Got to see a long list of games from here on out. And I still hope the Packers will be 6. I still think they're going to be 6-11. That's neither here nor there. For Packers fans, I do want to apologize to you in this regard for picking the Chicago Bears. And obviously yesterday, I think, showed that it is not just Aaron Rodgers who owns the Bears and is part owner, but it is the Green Bay Packers and the city of Green Bay, Wisconsin as a whole who owns the Chicago Bears. That was bad. Chicago hasn't won a game in 11 months. Probably should have taken that more into consideration when I had them going 8-9. It wasn't good. Patrick Brown in the comments. It's going to be a long year for Chicago. They got to patch up that offensive line, which they've tried to, and they drafted Darnell Wright, to their credit, last year, or this past draft, so they're trying to address it. But I didn't think Chase Claypool. You watch tape on Claypool, he was it wasn't just the fact that he was awful. It was the fact that his effort on some of these plays. We'll get to an effort play, by the way, in Foxborough later in the show. But it was the fact that his effort plays were, what is he doing? I mean, it's like he wasn't even committed to the game at all. It's like he was just going in slow motion. It was rough. So. Again, props to Jordan Love. I don't think we need to overreact to one game against probably the worst defense in the National Football League. I got to see more, moving forward. But good win for the Packers, though. By the way, speaking of Green Bay, and this is why I say I should have probably prefaced the show with this, because this is exactly what I'm trying not to do, given that it is week 1. This is why I didn't panic on Daniel Jones the way most are today. I don't think Daniel Jones is the top 20 quarterback in the NFL. I've been very clear about that. I think we kind of know what he is. He's not that bad. The Cowboys' defense is just that good. That's what it is. Danny made some mistakes, but that's to be expected against, once again, a great Cowboys defense. But I'm seeing today, what do I say leading into week 1? The 2 biggest overreaction Mondays in the NFL: the day after week 1, the day after the Super Bowl. That's because now the Cowboys are going to shut everybody out, go undefeated. Giants are going to be in the Caleb Williams sweepstakes. They suck. The Pack. I mean, I saw someone say today the Packers can get to the NFC Championship. No, they cannot. They cannot beat Dallas. They cannot beat San Francisco. I don't think they can beat Philly. They cannot beat Detroit. They couldn't beat Detroit with Aaron Rodgers last year when they weren't as good and the defense was terrible. Those 4 teams alone are clearly better. Clearly better than Green Bay. It's not even a discussion. Come on now. Let's not get over our skis here. I think the Saints are better. No doubt. Okay. I had to, let's see, what do we got here? Okay, so let me take a drink of Gatorade first. As a Steelers fan, yesterday was not an enjoyable experience. First game, actually, as a Steelers fan, as y'all know, back in July, I officially announced them as my lifelong NFL favorite team. And as it turns out, it came down between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the San Francisco 49ers. And I'm thinking, man, got two historically great franchises, some great quarterbacks have played there, and great defenses, great coaches. And my favorite segment of the week, y'all know this by now, and has been for the last couple of years or so. My favorite segment on Carving It Up is called... Were I a betting man? It's called If I Were a Betting Man. I take pride in that segment. And it's a segment that I struggled mightily in 2022. It's one I looked to bounce back in. And the good news is we still got 16 weeks left and the playoffs. So don't want to overreact too much. It is just week 1. Not only did I take the Steelers +2, I took them to win outright. And you could tell pretty darn immediately that it was not going to be a good day for the Steelers offense. Now, the Steelers defense, I'm not going to be too brutal on because, again, I think it was Barry who alluded to it in the comments, and some have alluded to today. I'm seeing a lot of people talk about, Brock Purdy, he's just playing in Kyle Shanahan's system. I mean, he's not really that good. No, Brock Purdy is an excellent quarterback. Is he elite? No. Is he top 10? Certainly not. But is he good enough given the pieces around him to win the Super Bowl? You betcha. If you look at Brock Purdy and what he did yesterday, he is perfectly suited for that Kyle Shanahan offense in a way that Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance simply weren't. Garoppolo was accurate but not mobile. Lance was mobile but not accurate. Purdy's both. Purdy's like the in-between type of area. Some of those throws, especially on third down, which were just a punch to the gut every time. San Francisco. What was San Francisco's third down numbers yesterday? Because it felt like every time. And these aren't third and short situations. These are third and 7s, third and 8s that San Francisco continuously converted on. San Francisco in this game, 6 for 13 on third down. It felt like they were 12 for 13 on third down. They were just constantly efficient. By the way, converted a fourth down as well in that game. But Brock Purdy, and again, the silver lining I look at to this game, obviously as a Steelers fan, is like, well, at least I was right about Purdy. I've liked this kid ever since he made his first appearance against the Miami Dolphins in relief of Jimmy G. I liked him even more as the season got on. By the way, fun stat here, if you're a 49ers fan, a Brock Purdy fan, I am a Purdy fan. Brock Purdy is the first quarterback in NFL history to start 6-0 in regular season games and throw at least 2 touchdown passes in all of them. So this isn't a situation where it's just get Purdy out of the way. No, he's making tough throws. On the run, in the pocket, outside the pocket. Again, his talent, we're so often just married to mind-boggling talent and physical attributes. That's why, listen, that's why guys like Mahomes, and especially guys to me, like, how did Trevor Lawrence look yesterday? My Lord, that's the MVP of the league right there, as I predicted. Point is, we see guys like that and we're like, okay, that's what a quarterback is supposed to be. Well, there's different ways to be a quarterback. And Brock Purdy's way about being a quarterback is efficiency, accuracy, mobility, good leadership. The locker room in San Francisco absolutely loves him. So against the Steelers defense that did not give up 20 points at all in their last, I think it was 6-7 games of last year, did not give up a 20-point game. And Brock Purdy came in there and hung 30 on him. Now, Christian McCaffrey had the big run. See, Pittsburgh scores. I'll get to Pittsburgh in just a second. Pittsburgh, we score at the end of the first half. Mike Tomlin's aggressive on fourth down. We convert. And Kenny Pickett throws the touchdown to Pat Freiermuth. I'm thinking, here we go. We got something here. It's 20-7 at the half. If we can get a stop to start the second half, we get the ball, maybe get on a move. And then Christian McCaffrey breaks off the 65-yard run. I'm like, okay, that's it. Okay, we're starting 0-1. And what grinded my gears, especially when I went back and watched the game, is the fact that this stat's kind of unbelievable. And it goes to show you how far, and I'll get into this in a couple segments from now, how important coaching is in the NFL. Here's a stat. This is from Ryan McChrystal. Want to give him credit. He says Kenny Pickett got rid of the ball in under 2.5 seconds on only 34.8% of his passes yesterday. Only Patrick Mahomes had a lower rate in week 1, according to True Media. On the other hand, Jordan Love, who played excellent, released the football, got rid of the ball in under 2.5 seconds 52% of the time. So 52% to basically 35%. I don't know if this is Matt Canada, the offensive coordinator, who I'll get to in just a moment. I don't know if it's Mike Tomlin. You are playing arguably the best defensive line in the National Football League with an offensive line that you have not been able to fix in a half decade. Why in God's name are you running plays that take a long time to develop? It's not like a get the ball out of your hands, first read. If it's not there, Pittsburgh's too good to be this bad. Listen, I understand, again, that's a Niners defense that is in the discussion to me with the Cowboys and with the Steelers, when the Steelers are on at least, as the best defense in football. They're not that good, and Pittsburgh's offensive pieces aren't that bad. We can have questions about Kenny Pickett. I certainly do after that performance. But George Pickens, you saw that. It didn't count, but he had a one-handed catch in the end zone. It made it look effortless, and I saw him make some of those catches. I saw him play against my Vols in Neyland Stadium when he was with Georgia. He's that type of freak athlete. Najee Harris is a good running back. Jalen Warren's a good skill position player. You could use him in the backfield and otherwise. You got Deontay Johnson. You could Pat Freiermuth. You watch Darnell Washington, big 6'7" tight end. You've got pieces to work with. It isn't like it's a bare cupboard like I don't know. Think of that. It's like Arizona or something. And here's something too. And I'm not like, I'll fire everybody after week 1. But if Pittsburgh's offense doesn't go in a different direction, completely different direction, starting next week against a defense, we saw what they did to Joe Burrow in the Cleveland Browns next week. Heads may have to start rolling in terms of offensive play calling in Pittsburgh. Here's Matt Canada, the offensive coordinator, and Steelers fans have been on him for a while now. I probably should have seen this coming, but Matt Canada's offense through the first 36 games of his tenure as the Steelers defensive coordinator, we've got the graphic right here. He has scored 20 points 9 times in 36 games. He's scored 30 in 36 games twice. And under him, the Pittsburgh Steelers have yet to go for 400 or more yards. They are the only team in football who can say that. New England's done it, given their awful offensive pieces. Chicago's done it. Arizona's done it. Pittsburgh, last 2 years, including yesterday, 0 400-yard games on offense. I don't know if this is a philosophy by Mike Tomlin in the sense of, we can just win with defense. Not in today's league, you can't. If Dallas's offense isn't good this year, I'm sorry, they're not getting past the divisional round. They're not. And I think Dallas's offense will be good. That's why I have them going to the Super Bowl. But you get my point here. And not to absolve blame from Kenny Pickett, because I didn't think he played well at all. I thought he missed some layup throws. The pick he threw to Ward when he overthrew Deontay Johnson. It was a terrible read. He forced it into tight coverage. Not sure what he's thinking there, but that's a decision he made. I don't know if this is just a coaching problem, a quarterback problem, or both. But you saw TJ Watt yesterday. He was flying all over the field. He was excellent. The Niners' offense certainly had plenty of success. The defense had its moments. They forced turnovers. They forced another near turnover when Purdy fumbled and somehow got it back. Folks, the Steelers' offense did not have a first down until after the 2-minute warning. A first down with long, developing plays. By the way, with a second-year quarterback. Again, Purdy second year, Pickett second year. By the way, one was, and you guys know I love Purdy, as I just said, I'm sturdy Purdy, that's my guy. But one guy was picked in the first round, one was Mr. Relevant, last pick of the draft, who looks like they've developed more. One is Kyle Shanahan, the other is Matt Canada. This could be a real story for Pittsburgh moving forward. And I hope it isn't the case, but very well could be. And it's something I'm genuinely concerned about as a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. No question about it. Let's see. Patrick Brown says, Niners picked up where they left off against Pittsburgh. P2, Patrick Peterson, talked about picking off Pickett. I think you mean picking off Purdy, and ended up getting a touchdown scored at him. Yep, it was a touchdown to Brandon Ayuk, who had a big day. Had a couple touchdown passes through the air. Yeah, it was a rough day for me as a Steelers fan. It was no fun. I gotta admit to y'all, it was no fun. John Rivera, Jets. Jets. That game I will predict at the end of today's show. John is a big Jets fan, and they've got a lot of hope today. A lot of hope. See if they get off to the right start tonight on Monday Night Football. But man, that was depressing. I'm not gonna lie to you. All of a sudden, week 2 is not a must-win game because it's just week 2. Pittsburgh has some favorable games on their schedule. Listen, it's not like you're getting a week off going from San Francisco's defense to Cleveland's defense and Myles Garrett. That's next Monday night. So they get an extra. Tomlin, Canada get an extra day to prepare. I'm very, very curious about whether or not Canada will simplify the offense. He's got to realize Ben Roethlisberger, albeit he was old, inefficient, and very much past his prime, but he was a veteran. He was a smart quarterback. He knew how plays were going to develop and how that all went down. Kenny Pickett's young. Simplify the offense. Make things... And playing quarterback in the NFL is hard enough. You might as well have your OC at least make it a little bit easier, given the fact you have playmakers everywhere. And if the offensive line, which I said coming into the season was the weak unit of this football team, if the offensive line isn't good, just death by 1,000 cuts. You know, if you want to take the occasional shots, George Pickens, hey, that's a great guy to take a shot to down the field. But don't be running these long developing plays where Pickett has to scale the field. Now here comes Nick Bosa. Here comes Eric Armstead. You know, here comes that I'm forgetting his name, the interior defensive lineman the Niners got from Philadelphia. Here he comes. So that's something that Pittsburgh's going to have to adjust to, and they really didn't in the second half. And so you compare that to like what Jordan Love was dealing with in Green Bay, where LaFleur simplified the offense, quick read. If first read's not there, then the play's dead. We move on to play two. Whereas Kenny Pickett, okay, here's one, here's two. He's not to that stage of development in his career yet. I mean, there are backups in the NFL who are more developed in that regard. So that's something Pittsburgh's got to adjust to. So yeah. Needless to say, yesterday was not fun. I'm not moving off my pick of the Steelers getting to the playoffs. Listen, I believe in pick integrity, and I'm not going to just abandon it after 1 week. Although Pittsburgh got some unfortunate news today. Cameron Hayward, who's been a staple in Pittsburgh, is going on IR with I think it was a hamstring injury? I forget what it was. But he's on IR, so he's gone at least the next 4 weeks. So not a good day to be a Steelers fan, especially a new Steelers fan. First ever game did not exactly go as planned. Not at all. It was okay. Let's move on. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Real quick, super fast, and then we'll get back to football. So I saw in the FIBA tournament, the FIBA World Cup, where Team USA failed to medal. They played Canada in the third place game. Mikal Bridges hit a crazy three off a missed free throw to tie the game, but Canada ended up beating us in overtime. And this is, by the way, the second straight FIBA tournament that Team USA hasn't medaled. A lot of people are freaking out today. Oh, Steve Kerr can't coach, and this Team USA is an embarrassment. The world's caught up to us. Oh, my God. First of all, folks, I hate to sound like a typical typical arrogant American, but we don't care about FIBA tournaments. We care about the Olympics. Have you seen a new report came out from the great Shams Charania, as reliable an insider as there is? He reported this morning. LeBron James wants to represent Team USA at the Olympics in Paris next year and is spearheading a group of future Hall of Famers, including Steph Curry, Kevin Durant. Other possible names include Anthony Davis, Jason Tatum, Draymond Green, Devin Booker, Damian Lillard, De'Aaron Fox, and Kyrie Irving. I'm here to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that if the roster looks anything like what this report is talking about, not only is Team USA going to win gold, they're not going to lose a single game. They're not. You got the sixth greatest player ever, still in his prime. I believe he's still, albeit at the back end of his prime, but I believe he'll still be in his prime a year from now. The same can be said about Kevin Durant. LeBron will be darn near 40 at that point, so he'll be more of kind of playing like a Magic Johnson type of role in terms of getting guys involved, scoring when he has to, when he gets the opportunity to. You got Jason Tatum, who's a 30-point per game guy. You got Damian Lillard, 30-point per game guy, one of the greatest long-distance shooters we've ever seen. Draymond Green, the jack of all trades, probably going to be your best defensive player. Him, along with, I heard Jaren Jackson Jr. was suggested. Team USA cares about the Olympics. We don't give a crap about no FIBA. Come on. With all due respect, if Tyrese Halliburton, who I really like, by the way, if Tyrese Halliburton is the third best player we got on our basketball team, we're probably not going to win. If we are relying on Austin Reeves, another guy I like, to be hitting huge shots down the stretch against some of the world's best talent, if we were sending that to the Olympics, I'd be mortified. I'd be very concerned about the Olympics next year. We're going to have the greatest player ever, the sixth greatest player ever, a top 15 player ever in Kevin Durant, and a back-to-back All-NBA guy in Tatum. The guy with probably the greatest handle ever in Kyrie Irving. Come on, man. What are we doing? So, Team USA is going to be just fine a year from now. Or I guess technically 10 months from now, because the Olympics start, I think July 26th of 2024 is when the Olympics kick off. Yeah, Team USA is we're going to be just fine. Don't worry about that. Okay, so we'll move on to this one, because I really wanted to get into this Patriots-Eagles game. So, first of all, I'm seeing a lot of people panicking about Jalen Hurts and the Eagles offense, and panicking about the fact that Philly only won this game by 5 against New England. Listen, first of all, winning the NFL is hard. Winning on the road is even harder. Winning on the road in tough conditions with rain is hard. Winning on the road in tough conditions with a loud crowd who's there to see the greatest quarterback ever being honored is even harder than that. I'm not that concerned about Philly. Who I really wanted to get to was old Michael McCorkle Jones. Old Mac Jones, who all the world, everybody knows I'm not one of the biggest Mac Jones fan, and fans really haven't been since he came into the NFL in 2021. 15th overall pick out of the University of Alabama. And Mac Jones, you look at his stat line, you're like, oh, man, he looked good. Look at that, 35 of 54, 316, 3 touchdowns, a passer rating of 91, well above average. It looked good. Mac Jones. Oh, here we go. Mac Jones, it's a new day in Foxborough, and it's a new day for the New England Patriots, and hey, mate, they just may make the playoffs. First of all, I want to move the mic back and forward a little bit so you can hear. I want to give a good golf clap. Congratulations to Mac Jones for looking like an actual NFL quarterback. Took you long enough. Been waiting since his rookie year, your rookie year. Welcome to the party. About time. Okay, this is, you know what? I said we move carving up the context to Wednesday, but you know what? Screw it. Let's just go and get into carving up the context right now. Here we go. Roll the music. And on this week's edition of Carving Up the Context, we're going to talk about old Michael McCorkle Jones, who the whole NFL world is freaking out about. Let's talk about he's the franchise quarterback in New England. Year 3 is going to be a big one. Bill O'Brien has fixed Mac Jones, except when you consider the fact that they were playing a Philadelphia Eagles defense that is excellent outside the numbers. With Darius Slay, who we'll get into in just a moment. He had a pick 6 yesterday, by the way. And James Bradbury, the other corner, who is tremendous. By the way, Philadelphia Eagles defensive line, really good. Here's the problem. They are really, really thin at linebacker. And the back end of their secondary, well, they just so happen to lose their starting safeties from last year's Super Bowl. So they're weak up the middle, really good outside. Philadelphia is. So credit to Bill O'Brien, Bill Belichick. That's where they attacked. And that's where Mac Jones had his success. But the very second he had to throw outside and make some tough throws outside the numbers. You got to have a little bit of arm strength to make these type throws now. You got to have good precision on these plays. Here's what happened, and here's what Mac Jones had to do with this pick 6 we're about to show you. So here's Mac Jones, drops back. Awful pass here. Right to Darius Slay. Gets tipped. Goes to Darius Slay. Here comes Mac Jones. Right there. Boy, what an effort. Look at that. Really going after Darius Slay. Really trying to ensure that he doesn't walk in untouched for a touchdown to put Philadelphia up by 2 scores. By the way, Patriots lost this game by 5. You think that play doesn't make a big difference? You think given how the Patriots defense played that maybe they wouldn't have gotten a stop and given themselves an opportunity to maybe hold the Eagles 3, maybe if they play well enough to hold the Eagles to a punt? There's one mistake Mac Jones made. And how about this? After all raving about, Mac Jones lighting the world on fire, had 2 opportunities to win the football game. How about this? So, Philadelphia, Jalen Hurts, and Jalen Hurts does not turn the football over. That is not, ever since his rookie year. Like his rookie year, he struggled with turnovers in the limited action he got. But from second year, and certainly last season, man doesn't turn the ball over. I don't know what happened here. I don't know if it was the ball was wet, he got hit, lost the football, and the New England Patriots get the ball where they got it down at the Philadelphia 41-yard line with 3 minutes left in the game. We're thinking, oh boy, dang, New England may actually come back and win this, hand the defending NFC champions their first loss, and hey, Belichick may be back to being the genius we believed him to be, or some believed him to be. They run the ball for 5 with Zeke, and then Mac gets sacked. And then Mac misses Kendrick Bourne. And then he got a penalty on a delay game on Mac. They go for it on 4th and 17, and he misses on that. But fear not. The Philadelphia Eagles, I'll tell you, they were so mortified with what Mac Jones did to them. So scared. They get the ball back in good field position. It looks like they're going to go 3 and out and pump, but they say, you know what? We're either going to end the football game right here, despite the fact their offense has been pretty darn atrocious in the second half. We are going to go for it on 4th down, say either we end the game here, or we know our defense is going to stop Mac Jones at the end. So they go for it. They don't convert. Jalen Hurts misses Devontae Smith on that play. And here's Mac Daddy Jones. Got the ball at his own 44 with 1:48 left. Plenty of time. Over 100 seconds left. And the Philadelphia Eagles get the stop. So any other quarterback, Mahomes and Burrow. Heck, let's not even look at the elite top tier guys. Let's think about a guy like a Kirk Cousins who had a rough afternoon yesterday against Tampa Bay. If Kirk Cousins let's play the video again, threw a pick six to Darius Slay, and the reason it was a pick six is because he did not make a single effort to make a tackle right there. He's like, just let him run by. If that happens, and then his defense gets a turnover, and then a turnover on downs around midfield with plenty of time left to win the football game, and he doesn't convert, misses some open receivers. Yeah, we're probably bagging on Kirk Cousins today. By the way, there was when New England scored to get it to, I think it was 25-20 at that point. They shouldn't have gotten any points that drive if Hunter Henry doesn't make what was SportsCenter's #1 play of the day. It's a simple little slant route for Hunter Henry at a big game yesterday. Mac Jones completely misses him. He's wide open. And Hunter Henry, who actually saw play in college at Arkansas against my Vols, Hunter Henry makes an incredible one-handed catch to keep the drive going, and New England ends up scoring. So, pick six, in which he did not even make an attempt to stop the guy, just let him waltz into the end zone for a touchdown. By the way, they lost by 5. You don't think that 7 points makes a difference? Probably does. And then the touchdown drive was set up by a way better catch than it was a throw, so a missed throw that he got lucky on. And then he gets stopped twice within the last 4 minutes of the game with a chance to win it. So I'm supposed to believe that New England and Bill O'Brien, who had a solid game plan, to his credit, has all of a sudden fixed Mac Jones. I beg to differ. Yes, he looked like an NFL quarterback. Good job. But I don't think this is something that is exactly sustainable for the Patriots. By the way, do they go to Miami next week, or is that a home game? I think that's a home game next week against the Dolphins, who Belichick literally cannot beat over the last few years. Really, in the Tua era, Tua's got there's some teams have certain other teams' numbers. Like the Browns got Joe Burrow's number. He's 1-5 against them. Tua's got the Patriots' number. I don't know what his record is against them, but it's got to be pretty darn similar to what the Browns' record is against Burrow. So they host the Dolphins. I'll get to them in the next segment. Did you see Tua? Did you see Tyreek? Then they got the Jets the week after that. Great defense. Then they got the Cowboys after that. God only knows what the Cowboys defense is going to do to Mac Jones. I actually may feel bad for him that day. Then you got the Saints, excellent defense. Then the Raiders, Bills, solid defense. Then Miami again. Then Washington, who has a solid defense. Colts. Then you got the Giants, Chargers. Steelers have an excellent defense. Kansas City's got a good defense. Broncos got a good defense. Bills, solid defense. Jets, excellent defense. Crazy enough, Philadelphia's defense might actually be their weak unit, which to a certain extent it kind of was last year, particularly against elite quarterbacks. And now with the fact that they lost their starting safeties in free agency during the offseason, and their linebacking core is incredibly thin. Props. By the way, good game plan. I'm gonna give him credit for good game plan. Bill O'Brien attacked the middle of the field. Props to him. Mac Jones missed some throws even in that regard, but it was a good game plan. But kind of like I said with Jordan Love, but to a far greater extent, because by this point we kind of know who Mac Jones is. Jordan Love's still kind of a mystery. These coordinators got film on old Mac Daddy. He's going to struggle. And the Patriots are going to. I love how, and I love, last thing before we move out of carving up the context, what I love is that the Patriots bar has been set so low by this point that apparently, I wasn't aware of this. I don't remember talking about it and carving it up live. Please remind me if I did. But apparently there was a new rule that came into the NFL during league meetings this summer. I guess, at least that's what I'm hearing today, because I'm hearing a lot of folks saying, hey, the Patriots almost won. It was a moral victory. So I didn't know. It was the Patriots are technically 0-1, right? Because they've got no wins, evidently no losses, and one moral victory. Completely ignoring the fact that Bill Belichick is now 25-27 without the guy who was honored yesterday in New England, Mr. Tom Brady. I'd be lying to you if I said it didn't take just a little bit of joy in that. And I'm a Brady fan. It was hard to root for the Patriots because I was never a Belichick guy, but I loved Brady. But ever since he left, he's kind of stuck with Mac. And he hasn't had a whole lot of success with Mac or with Cam or with even Bailey Zappi. So the evaluation of Mac Jones' performance yesterday completely lacked all honesty, all objectivity, and all context. And that is what we do here on Carving It Up. We carve up the context. I rest my case. This is not a good performance by Mac Jones, okay? It's not. Okay, so by the way, this just came in. We got the news earlier today that Damar Hamlin is going to be inactive tonight for Buffalo. I'm not quite sure why. I know he's one of their backup safeties. I'm not real sure. Can I be honest with you? You know why I think they're doing this? I think Buffalo plays the Raiders next week. I think they play the Raiders. I could be right, but I remember Buffalo's schedule. I'm pretty sure they play Vegas next week. Let me check super fast. Let's go to Buffalo's schedule. Hold on, y'all. ESPN's taking a minute here. My ESPN app. Yeah, they host the Raiders. By the way, they're 10-point favorites. That obviously could change one way or the other depending on how tonight goes. But they're 10-point favorites against the Raiders. They host the Raiders. I think they may want Damar Hamlin's first game to be a home game. That's just my guess. Although, then you can make the case, well, wouldn't it be full circle after the near tragedy that happened in January to have him play his first game on Monday Night Football, where Monday Night Football is where what happened, what happened in January happened. So, but anyways, Damar Hamlin is inactive for tonight. Obviously, he'll be in the building supporting his teammates when the Bills take on the Jets in about an hour and a half, and I will predict that game at the end of today's show. Buffalo, okay, they moved the lineup apparently, so Buffalo's now a 2.5-point favorite. So I don't know if there's anything that's changed in that regard. Looks like weather could be another factor. Obviously, at MetLife Stadium, the weather was a huge factor. Rain was just pouring. It was darn near a monsoon in the Meadowlands. But let's see, do we have? Yeah, it looks like there's a flood watch in New York. So that's something to keep your eye on. This could be, if this is a ground and pound game. By the way, that could favor the Jets to a certain extent because they got Breece Hall, Dalvin Cook. But then again, the Bills, Josh Allen's kind of the run game. So Patrick says Bills-Jets is likely a weather delay. There is lightning in the area. Yeah, that's what I'm seeing. Because I know they had a shelter in place, and there was nobody at all on the football field. And yeah, I'm looking here. It says there's a flood warning, and that it is currently a thunderstorm. And this is just according to my weather app. Okay, so flood watch until 8:45. Flood watch till 8:45. I didn't know I'd be like a pseudo-meteorologist on Carving Up Live today for a state that I don't even live in. But given the gravity and the excitement of this game tonight, sometimes you got to take on roles briefly, at least. I'm not going to compare myself to the great men and women who are, do obviously fantastic work as meteorologists around this country. But, just got to keep you on top of it the best way I can. Before we get to Chargers and Dolphins, because I really want to discuss that game and kind of my biggest takeaway from that, because it wasn't necessarily just the quarterbacks that I was looking at, or even the defenses or whatnot. But let's look at other games around the NFL because it was a jam-packed week 1. So Ravens, man, God bless J.K. Dobbins. The poor kid cannot stay healthy. Tore his Achilles. MRI confirmed it today, so he's obviously done for the season. The good news for Baltimore is that they're very deep at running back, so I don't think it'll be a devastating loss to their offense. But man, you feel bad for the kid. He struggled with injuries the last few years, so prayers for him that he recovers fast. But listen, Lamar and the offense look choppy. It's to be expected, to a certain degree. I noticed that Baltimore didn't take a whole lot of shots down the middle of the field. I think a big reason for that is Mark Andrews being out for this game. Once Mark Andrews comes out, comes back, and he's the security blanket for Lamar Jackson, now that really opens up things on the outside for Zay Flowers, for Odell Beckham Jr., for Rashad Bateman. But listen, Baltimore took care of business. They cover the spread. C.J. Stroud, listen, it's his first start. It's a very good Baltimore Ravens defense, and looked a little overwhelmed, but listen, it's his first start in the NFL. That's kind of to be expected. Bengals, Browns. I knew I should have listened to. I knew. Now I did take. To be fair, I did take Cleveland +2 or 2.5, whatever it was. I did take them. I did take the Browns to cover the spread. I took the Bengals by 1. But listen, it's in terms of how I count wins and losses. I count it simply based on did I predict the outcome of the game correctly. In this case, I clearly did not. Listen, I don't know what's in the water in Cincinnati, but that year after year. Seems like they try to address the offensive line, and they added Orlando Brown, and that was an addition that I was like, man, this is... I said last Friday on the show when I was predicting this game, man, nobody's talking about this. Orlando Brown, Mahomes was left tackle. He was in Baltimore for that, I think he was in Baltimore. He's a good player. Now he's Joe Burrow's left tackle. He's secure there. They cannot protect the man. It's unbelievable. Now, I know a lot of people are freaking out about Burrow and crushing Burrow. Hey, he became the highest paid player in NFL history on Thursday or Friday, whatever it was, and he was terrible. He threw for, I think it was 82 yards, under 50% completion percentage. He played bad. Listen, there was a lot of, and I'll get to this as we sort of go down the list of games, there was a lot of below-average offensive performances to darn near bad offensive performances and some good defensive performances. Why is that? A lot of defense is, obviously there's scheme involved, of course. I'm not going to minimize it in that regard. But a lot of defense is just blowing you-know-what up. Just stop crap from happening. Offense is it's kind of core. It's like a dance almost, right? You got to get the steps right. If one person is off, it messes up the whole thing. Burrow, who was out basically off training camp with the calf injury. Remember last year he had the appendectomy, so he started last season kind of slow. Not as bad as this, but he started slow, threw 4 picks against my Steelers, didn't play particularly well against the Cowboys, and then from week 3 against the Jets on, he was great and almost won MVP last year. So listen, I think the Bengals' offense will be fine, but it's the offensive line, man. It's like they try to address it every offseason. They can't get it right. It's unbelievable. I don't know if I've ever seen anything like it in terms of... they're making the effort. It isn't like they're just leaving Burrow out there to dry like the Colts did with Andrew Luck, where the Colts just refused to put a legitimate offensive line in front of Andrew Luck to the point where he had to walk away from the game after 7 seasons. I don't know what's going on. By the way, not like this is breaking news or anything, but Myles Garrett is an absolute monster. I don't know. I wish I had the clip on the show. Did you see the play where Myles Garrett, who's outside pass rusher, obviously, he's lined up on the interior, as Micah Parsons does that from time to time, but he's lined up the interior, and the center, poor guy, he's watching Myles Garrett, who's probably the best physical athlete in the league. I mean, he's unbelievable. And you got Myles Garrett, who's like doing the crossover, pulling like a Kyrie Irving, like hezzy between the legs, like a fake basketball, an air basketball, and he comes in and just knocks Burrow to his backside once again, as was the case all afternoon in Cleveland. But listen, timing was off for Cincinnati. Burrow, the receivers, they'll be fine. They have too good of a track record for us to completely write them off and say, they're not contenders this year. They're contenders. The AFC North as a whole just had a really bad afternoon. Even the Ravens, who won, even the Cleveland. Now, Cleveland was great defensively. Offensively, wasn't too patched up, but that takes time. That's something that can be worked on, improved. Buccaneers versus Vikings. That was one of the more surprising games of the day. The only thing good with Minnesota was their throwback uniforms. Those throwbacks were kind of nice. But the thing that caught my eye And I'm watching this game. I mostly watch the game in the second half because I look at my phone, I get an update. Man, you look at Justin Jefferson, 10 targets, 139 yards the first half. He's balling. He's looking like the best receiver in football. Although, as I'll talk about in the next segment, Tyreek Hill, he's pushing Justin Jefferson for that position if he isn't there already. But Justin Jefferson balls out in the first half. They're getting the ball. Second half, he gets 2 targets and has 11 yards receiving. What happened? Was it something Todd Bowles did defensively in terms of a scheme? Was it just Kirk Cousins not getting the ball to Justin Jefferson? Was it, man, it gets to a point in time where, Kirk threw that end zone pick at the end of the first half that was terrible. It gets to a point where things aren't going well for you offensively. Get the ball to your best player. And Minnesota didn't do that in the second half, and Baker played solid. Baker had a rough first quarter, first half in general, but led a couple scoring drives. He looked good. Listen, little expectations for Baker. I still think Tampa Bay should be in tank mode. I think every win is not a good thing for him. I think they should be in the Caleb Williams sweepstakes with Arizona, who's one up them, given the fact that they lost to Washington. Actually, speaking of that game, let me just get rid of that game quick. That was not an impressive performance by the Commanders. I thought that was going to be one of the few games that got out of hand pretty quickly, because simply put, Arizona has virtually no talent outside of Budda Baker and Zach Ertz and Jonathan Gannon. We saw that. We saw that speech. You have fire in your gut? Well, it came down to the last drive. My man Joshua Dobbs, he played hard, but just, I love Space Dobbs, but I think it's safe to say he's not the quarterback long term in Arizona. But the man is a freaking genius. Okay, he's a aerospace engineer major. Whenever his football days are over, that dude was going places. There's no doubt about it. It's why I and a lot of people call him Space Dobbs. He's the man, but he's in a bad situation in Arizona. And I almost had Washington -7 as my if I were a bet man segment. Thank God I didn't, because that was not impressive. Sam Howell was fine in the second half. He took a brutal hit in the first half, but wasn't terribly impressed. But a win is a win in the NFL. You got to take them where you can get them. Titans-Saints was probably the most unwatchable game in the league in Week 1 to this point. So certainly we hope Bills and Jets with the rainy conditions won't challenge for that dubious honor. But the Titans were bad offensively. Ryan Tannehill threw 3 picks. What I hated, though, and again, I get Tannehill struggling. I get it. And I know you're playing a great defense. But Tennessee puts together a nice little drive. They're down 16-12. They get inside the 10-yard line. They've got a 4th down and 6, and they settle for the 3. And Derek Carr, who had a rough afternoon, my man Derek Carr, it's my guy. What I say, there's 3 quarterbacks I defend like crazy: Dak, Lamar, and Carr. And Carr had kind of an up and down afternoon, but that pass was Shaheed, I think, who caught the pass down the left sideline. Beautiful throw by my man Derek Carr. It's wonderful. So, yes, a good win for the Saints. I got the Saints winning the NFC South with a 9-8 record. I still maintain that. That was my Bryson's Bleak bet game. I gritted my teeth and picked Tennessee. I actually predicted a 27-24 final score. Was quite a bit off in that regard because both offenses couldn't do anything. Panthers-Falcons, again, was kind of a rough watch. I think that's going to be a common theme in the NFC South, as it is, at least in my mind, undoubtedly the worst division of football, and that's even considering the fact that the NFC North was awful yesterday, even the teams that won. But Panthers versus South Falcons. So, again, Atlanta, to their credits, they really addressed that defense, particularly the front 7 in free agency. They got to Bryce Young. That offensive line, Carolina, is going to need some patching up, whether it be at the trade deadline, whether it be next offseason in March and during free agency and the draft in April, and then moving forward from there. But this Panthers have some bright spots. They have a good running game. Chuba Hubbard. Bryce Young certainly has talent. There's a reason he was the number 1 overall pick. I like just about everything about him except for his size, which genuinely concerns me. And he spent a lot of time running for his life yesterday. And Atlanta got a lot of pressure. Offensively, though, I was not impressed by the Falcons. Desmond Ridder with, 5 minutes left at 100 yards passing. This was a 10-10 game going in the fourth quarter, and really it was the Falcons' rush attack that got them the W. So I still don't believe in Atlanta like many others do. But again, a win is a win. But Desmond Ridder looked every bit like a backup quarterback. Jags-Colts. Listen, the man I predicted to be the MVP of the league, Trevor Lawrence, looked great. That throw to Zay Jones, the throw and catch were both... That throw to Zay Jones down the right sideline was incredible. Trevor made either down in the red zone or near the red zone just some freaking darts he was throwing to his guys. It was wonderful to watch. Love seeing it from Trevor, who I said this offseason is the third best quarterback in football, and by season's end, I think a lot of folks will agree with me. Not a shot at Allen or Hurts or Lamar or Rodgers or any of these guys. Season's end, we're going to look at Mahomes the best, Burrow 2, and Trevor Lawrence 3rd. I'm just here to, I'm the meteorologist. Remember, I just played a meteorologist briefly on the show. Hope I did a decent job, but listen, those like I said, those people are the best. But I'm gonna be your NFL meteorologist, so to speak. I'm gonna predict the future. That Trevor Lawrence is gonna be the third best quarterback in football, and he will be the MVP of the league. For Indianapolis, though, with no Jonathan Taylor against a Jags team that is clearly better and clearly has a talent advantage, of the rookie quarterbacks, Anthony Richardson looked the best. He had the mistake with the interception. He had a play late in the game where he's trying to be aggressive running. Trevor Lawrence actually told him after the game, I forgot what he said verbatim, but he said something along the lines of, hey, take it easy out there. Like, don't put yourself in positions to get like concussed or get injured. God bless him. Robert Griffin III had to learn that the hard way. A lot of running quarterbacks have in the past. So his athleticism, his running ability is absolutely something that can propel him into being a very good NFL quarterback, if not a great quarterback, given his potential. But I was shocked at how, maybe I shouldn't have been, but I was shocked at how comfortable he looked. And Shane Steichen's been one of the better kind of young quarterback whisperers in the NFL, given his time with Justin Herbert. A better comparison to Anthony Richardson's Jalen Hurts. He was with him the last few years in Philadelphia. Jalen's evolved into a potential MVP candidate, certainly was last year. And so, listen, Shane Steichen had my man Richardson looking comfortable, looking composed and poised. All the good words you want for a rookie quarterback, and he looked solid. Raiders-Broncos was an interesting game to watch. Again, most of my attention was towards the Patriots-Eagles game and the Chargers-Dolphins game, which I'll get into in just a moment. That was Sean Payton is now the head coach for the Broncos. I couldn't tell a difference. I really couldn't. The fact that he tries the onside kick, you say, well, Bryson, you praise Dan Campbell in that situation going for the onside kick. Yeah, he's on the road in Arrowhead against the defending champs. Of course I defend it. An onside kick against a Raiders team that, let's be honest, doesn't have, I love my man, our new addition to the grid, Darian Hopkins, who's starting a Raiders show very soon, is doing a great job with his live streams and network. Not to take a shot at the Raiders, my man, but it isn't like they have a whole lot of momentum, whole lot of excitement coming into 2023. After all, like him, don't love him. Jimmy Garoppolo's their quarterback. Josh McDaniels, even worse than that, is their head coach. Listen, Russell was fine in the first half. Wasn't good in the red zone late in the fourth quarter. Really kind of cost Denver there. And listen, props to Jimmy G. Led that game-winning drive. Raiders are 1-0. But if you had never broken the news to me, if I didn't know that Nathaniel Hackett wasn't still there in Denver and Sean Payton wasn't still working at Fox or somewhere else coaching, I wouldn't have been able to tell the difference between this year's Broncos team and last year's. Now, in Denver's defense, Russell was missing some of his weapons. Jerry Jeudy gone, Tim Patrick gone, but that was a rough performance. I'm not going to lie to you. Now, Russell's pass reading looks good. Didn't turn the ball over to his credit, but Broncos offense wasn't terribly dynamic. I mean, there were even some plays, and this is something, I guess, over the course of the season that can be corrected, but how often do we lament the fact that Russell is often it's kind of his greatest gift and his greatest curse that he's such a great playmaker with his legs in the pocket, outside the pocket, running, making plays. But it can also be his greatest curse in the sense that we saw last year. I remember vividly a play against the Colts at the end of the game in Week 5 last year, and we saw this today. I think it was Cortland Sutton who was wide open, coming across Russell Wilson's face over the middle of the field, and Russell doesn't even look his direction because he's trying to maneuver in and outside the pocket, trying to make plays with his legs, instead of just standing back there and throwing an accurate pass to an open Cortland Sutton. It's those little things I thought by now Sean Payton might have corrected, and he really didn't. And Russell hasn't adjusted too. So that is something that can improve, but wasn't great. And finally, Rams-Seahawks. That was one of the more shocking wins to me, was the Rams, who have a bunch of kids, have no depth whatsoever. By the way, no Cooper Kupp. And they go into Seattle, one of the toughest places to play in football, and house the Seahawks. I mean, Seattle, offensively, with all those playmakers, with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, Jackson Smith and Jigba, good offensive line, although that could be a concern moving forward because Charlie Cross went down. My man Charlie Cross, who's a good tackle, he went down Not quite sure what his status is. But Seattle had one single solitary first down in the second half. Now, it was funny, too. One of my favorite plays of the day was Aaron Donald left one-on-one with the Seahawks guard, and Geno Smith takes a snap. 180, hut! Takes the snap, and he sees Aaron Donald, oh my God, and then throws it away. He's like, where's this guy coming from? Our whole offensive game plan is supposed to be to stop 99. He's the best football player in the stadium. And he goes one-on-one, darn near unblocked. But Matthew Stafford, who might have had the best quarterback performance of the weekend, in my view, 334 yards. Again, he didn't throw for any touchdowns, but a QBR of 89, pass rating of 91. Again, throwing to Tutu Atwell, and who are these guys? I'm looking at the box score. Who are these guys he's throwing to? So it's a credit to Stafford. It's a credit to Sean McVay. And I still listen. That's part of the reason I had the Rams with more wins than most. A lot of people had Rams winning 3-4 games, being the Caleb Williams sweepstakes. Some have argued they should. Dalton Brown, who's here at the Grid, is a contributor to the Grid Network, is a huge LA Rams fan. He's been the proponent of just tanking for Caleb, which for a lot of teams I don't think is a terrible strategy. I think Caleb is a generational talent. But this is why I had the Rams at 7 wins. Stafford's still a very good quarterback when healthy. Sean McVay's still, in my view, a top 5 coach in the league. Aaron Donald's still the best defensive player in the league until proven otherwise. Or not best defensive player, best defensive tackle in the league and top 10 player in the NFL until proven otherwise. And Cooper Kupp was my twin. I love Cooper Kupp. Was somebody I was thinking, hey, maybe he has a bounce back year, comes back healthy, and he's back hurt again. So sucks for the Rams, but man, heck of a win, Seattle. That could be again. This is why I say you never want to overreact to week 1, because the fact of the matter is week 1's kind of a guessing game. You're not quite sure what you're going to get. It's like we should. I just had a light bulb. Week 1 is like how Forrest Gump described chocolate. Life is like a box of chocolates. You don't know which one you're going to get. You don't know which one you're going to get in week 1. What these games look like, again, go 7-8 my picks. Some of that's my own stupidity, but I actually felt confident outside of Titans Saints in most of these picks. And I do feel confident tonight's pick, I will tell you that. Going to predict Jets and Bills in just a moment, in about 10 minutes or so, maybe 6 to 7 minutes-ish. I wanted to get into Dolphins-Chargers, though. So that was actually my upset of the week. It wasn't, I don't think, a huge upset. Chargers were 3-point favorites, so it was virtually a pick-em. But that was the biggest dog I predicted. Maybe I just didn't have the guts to pick teams like the Raiders, like my man Ryan Flowers did, or I think the Packers. He picked the Packers. Ryan Flowers, his clutch picks of the week were pretty good. My Steelers are the ones who messed up an undefeated weekend for him. But Dolphins in what was easily, in my view, the game of the day in week 1. Dolphins go on the road to LA, albeit it probably wasn't that much of a road game. And the Chargers, listen, I joke about the Chargers and the Clippers, kind of the second fiddle teams in the city of Los Angeles, having, I always say they have 13 fans, and the Clippers, you got Billy Crystal and Marcellus Wiley. Nobody's a Clippers fan. I actually did see a Clippers fan when I was at Disney World earlier this year, and it was like I'd seen a ghost. And then Chargers get outnumbered every home game. I mean, when Pittsburgh goes to LA, they're outnumbered. Chargers are dealing with so many fan issues. You can Google it. They had freaking AI fans in the crowd. They got people who aren't even real in the stadium to cheer for the team. Now, it was a movie promotion. I've seen the trailer for that. I don't want to see that movie. I don't want to see that movie. But it was to promote a movie, but it was still kind of creepy. I'm not going to lie to you. But Dolphins win 37-30. It was 37-35 was the final score? Yeah, 37-35 Miami. 36-34, rather. Dolphins won 36-34. I apologize. And Tua was spectacular. Tua is a guy who I was very high on coming out of the draft, and then after his first 2 seasons, I became a little bit more skeptical. Last year, he had his moments. Then he had the injuries, but I even made the case, even with the injuries, he had some moments where it wasn't great. I mean, against the Chargers defense in week 15? It was week 14, week 15 last year, on the road in LA with a majority Miami Dolphins fan base in the stadium. Chargers are missing, I think, 6 defensive starters, and Tua was horrible. So there were some moments last year when Tua was healthy and looked pretty darn pedestrian. But yesterday, probably the best quarterback of the weekend. 466 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. Completion percentage was good, by the way. QBR of 87 and a passer rating of 110. How Tua didn't get a higher passer rating than Jordan Love is beyond me. I guess it was because of the pick, but whatever. Again, didn't get a ton of help from his running game, albeit Mike McDaniel, the head coach, was really airing it out and really outdueled Justin Herbert. Listen, Herbert had a lower passer rating, lower QBR, less passing yards, less touchdowns. And that goes to something that I've talked about, I think more than ever this offseason, that coaching in the NFL, coaching in the sport of football as a whole, is so much more important, not to minimize these other sports, but so much more important than basketball, baseball, hockey, any other sport you want to throw out. It is remarkable what a great coach can do for a player or a team. Tua is talent-wise, I think is a middle-tier guy. I don't view him the same class as Mac Jones. Tua is excellent in moving in the pocket. Tua is very accurate. Tua showed me yesterday, by the way, dude was uncorking some bombs down the field to Tyreek Hill, who obviously had a ridiculous stat line. Tyreek Hill, 11 catches, 215, 2 touchdowns, was insane. But it is remarkable what a coach can do for a player, and on the other hand, how much he can hold a player back. Tua's got Mike McDaniel from the Kyle Shanahan system, and what he has done for Tua. And by the way, I was livid. I was beside myself when the Dolphins fired Brian Flores, who I still believe is a head coach in the NFL and hopefully gets an opportunity pretty soon after this current stint he has in Minnesota as their defensive coordinator. But Mike McDaniel's gotten the best out of Tua. Mike McDaniel's a guy who, with the Dolphins' third-string quarterback, was it Skylar Thompson was the kid's name, started in Buffalo against the Bills. Buffalo opens up 17-0, I think the score was. And Miami goes nuts offensively the rest of the game with the third stringer in cold weather as a warm weather team. Mike McDaniel scheming guys open, putting Tua in position to succeed. And then on the other hand, you have Justin Herbert, who I think is undeniably a better talent than Tua. Bigger arm, probably not quite as accurate to Tua, but he's very accurate, more mobile, more durable, just as good of a leader. Locker room respects him the same way that the Dolphins locker room respects Tua. Justin Herbert's absolutely a better prospect than Tua, and Tua's good. But he's got Brandon Staley at head coach, and he's got Kellen Moore at OC. And you saw the gap in coaching. Brandon Staley, by the way, who's a defensive head coach, again, we talk about game plans today a lot. I've kind of wanted to drive the point home about how important coaching is in terms of Bill O'Brien had a good plan for New England, attacking the middle of the field where Philadelphia's weak. You had Pittsburgh, who Matt Canada was drawing up these plays that took a long time to develop against a great pass rush in San Francisco. What are you doing? And then in this case, Brandon Staley, what is the game plan? You've got Tyreek Hill, the fastest man in pads on planet Earth, and you've got a one-on-one the whole game in man-to-man coverage. Folks, the Los Angeles Chargers ran more man-to-man coverage than any team in football, and they're facing Tyreek Hill. Explain that to me. And this is why I said coming into this season, I did strengths and weaknesses for every team in the NFL. For the Chargers, their biggest weakness was 2 individuals. One of them, the second guy I mentioned, was Kellen Moore. I think you saw that late in the game. I'm not sure what his plan was offensively. Herbert's getting sacked back there. He's not given an opportunity to give some time to throw to these really good wideouts they have in LA. But Kellen Moore was a weakness, and Brandon Staley was a weakness. How a coach can end the last 2 seasons with a loaded roster and a great young quarterback with inexcusable coaching errors. The game against Vegas that cost the Chargers a playoff trip, in which he called timeout when the Raiders were going to concede to a tie, in which both teams would have gotten to the playoffs. And then last year, up 27-0. And this is why I defend Dallas not throwing the ball a heck of a lot, not really open up their playbook with Dak. You're up 26-0. Why are you having to go nuts on the Giants when your defense is playing well? Up 27-0, throwing the ball constantly, instead of just trying to milk out the clock and keeping one of the best quarterbacks on earth, Trevor Lawrence, off the field. It's amazing what coaching can do for a player's development, positively and negatively. Tua looked great yesterday. I've been a Tua skeptic. Tua was awesome. Awesome. And this looks every bit like a Dolphins team. I predicted them to make the playoffs, win double-digit games for the first time in I don't know how long. But man, this is maddening to see a coach come in with a game plan and when it's not working, not address it. If there is any football player on the face of God's green earth that should not be left one-on-one in man-to-man coverage, it is Cheetah. Wow. I don't get it. And even in that last play, in which, by the way, Tua, to me, his best throw of the day, and he had a lot of great ones, was the fade to Tyreek in the right corner of the end zone, which gave the Dolphins the lead for good. That was basically the game-winning drive. Was gorgeous. Probably the best throw of the NFL weekend. Why are you leaving Tyreek Hill one-on-one? It's remarkable to me, especially I think it was on that drive. I think it was 3rd and 10 for Miami. Tyreek slammed out wide. That's the guy that can beat you. I know they have Waddle. I know they have Mostert, who's good, catching the ball in the backfield. It's just bad coaching is I'll use the word again. It's maddening to watch. And we don't often we do oftentimes coaching, not as much as offensive lines. I have the saying offensive lines are like the air conditioning systems. You're only noticing them when they're not working. Like Orlando Brown was trending on Twitter yesterday. That's not a good... You don't want to be trending as an offensive lineman. You don't want to be trending as a referee. You want to be mostly out of sight, out of mind, and just doing your job. And it's... You've got a game plan. It's not working. It's 3rd and 10. I don't even know what to do with myself right now. I picked the Dolphins to win, so I'm happy the Dolphins won because I picked them, and that was my upset of the week. But when you're watching a player in Justin Herbert, who... And I'm slowly starting to buy into Tua. I really am. Love what I'm seeing. Comparing with him and Mike McDaniel. Mike McDaniel, and I love Brian Flores, but Mike McDaniel's getting the best out of Tua. He's playing to his strengths. By the way, Tua's showing off an arm that I didn't know he really had. But it sucks to see a player who's good and gets excellent coaching and excellent weapons. Now, not to say Justin Herbert doesn't have good weapons, but it's tough to watch a remarkable prospect, a remarkable talent, who, by the way, is a good kid, good leader, works hard, get handicapped, get handcuffed by a limited offensive coordinator and a terrible head coach. That game was hard to watch. I'm not gonna lie to you. Even as somebody who picked the Miami Dolphins. So. Listen, Miami's going to be a problem moving forward. Again, knock on wood, Tua stays healthy. That was obviously a huge concern for him last year. I've been a Tua skeptic for the longest time, but folks, that was awesome. By the way, something else too, coaching. Miami's down. What were they down? It was a situation late first half. Let me make sure I get it right because I want to get this accurate and paint the picture of what this was. So, okay, here we go. So, Dolphins have the ball at their own 25, 9 seconds left. They are leading. The game's tied 17-17. Okay, so Dolphins got the ball at their own 25, 9 seconds left. Almost every team in the NFL, not saying they shouldn't, but almost every team in the NFL would take a knee there. And Tua takes a shot for Jalen Waddle, completes it for 22, and then at the end of the half, it was an underthrown ball, but that might have been part of the strategy. Last play of the half, they take a shot for I think it was Tyreek, and J.C. Jackson mauls him. And Miami ends up getting a field goal at the end of the half. Field goal's 3 points. Miami won by 2. Like, it's those little plays. Again, that's a 9-second sequence in a 60-minute game that may have changed the outcome. Coaching is so important, and I don't think we give enough love. We often we're looking at the great quarterbacks and these incredible talents at wide receiver, pass rushers, defenses. We do not give enough love to head coaches in the NFL. Great ones. We give criticism to bad ones like Brandon Staley. We don't give enough love to the great ones. So, Mike McDaniel is slowly evolving and slowly developing himself into a great head coach. Tua is not as good as Justin Herbert. He's not. And I'm starting to buy into Tua, but he's not as good as Herbert. That was as big of a coaching mismatch as I've ever seen watching, certainly this weekend. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. By the way, briefly, before I get to my Jets-Bills pick to conclude Week 1, great Week 1 other than the fact my Steelers got destroyed, but we'll bounce back next week against Cleveland. It's Cleveland. Pittsburgh owns Cleveland. I got to say, I was very impressed and very satisfied with what I saw out of those Texas Longhorns, who we know, at least they tend to, in games like this, national TV. This happened last year, by the way, against Alabama, in which they host Bama. Bryce Young, reigning Heisman winners, coming to town. You lose your starting quarterback to injury, Quinn Ewers, but your backup comes in, plays relatively well, and you got a slim lead at the end of the game, and Bryce Young does Bryce Young things, goes down the field, Bama wins in a walk-off field goal. And Texas fans feel good because, hey, that's the defending, they weren't the defending champs. They were defending runner-up champs, defending Heisman winner. They come in, it took a walk-off field goal to beat us. But Texas, and I was talking about this with the Patriots earlier, like the bar had been set kind of low for Texas football given their history, and that it was a lot of moral victories. Hey, we were close. I mean, if we made a few plays here and there, yeah, but you didn't win. I mean, you can take positive from losses, you can, but ultimately it doesn't change the fact you lost the football game. And they go on the road to Alabama. It's a loud environment in Tuscaloosa at Bryant-Denny Stadium. And Quinn Ewers and that Texas offense put on an absolute clinic on Nick Saban's defense. And I have said all offseason, I don't buy into Alabama. I think they were overrated, overhyped, overranked. And offensively, they kind of showed you that. This is not a Texas defense. They returned, I think the Texas might have returned every single starter. No. They lost the one linebacker in the draft, I think. But Texas brings back a lot of their starters from last year, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. And Jalen Milroe, who I said coming into the season, I don't buy. He's not exactly the successor to Bryce Young that you want. He had some bad decisions. That interception in the fourth quarter was brutal. But props to Texas. Props to Steve Sarkisian. And I think Nick Saban, I think is... I'm not even sure really if it's even a debate or a conversation about him being the greatest college football coach ever. That's now, remember, Saban went through that streak from like 07, I think 07 is when he became the Bama head coach, to 2020 where he didn't lose to an assistant. He's now lost to 3 within the last 21 months. 20 months, rather. Like, college football's kind of caught up to Alabama to a certain extent, whether that be with recruiting, whether that be with the fact that while Saban has embraced offense more, in Nick Saban, earlier in Nick Saban's career, he could win national championships with, not to take shots at these guys, but with Jake Coker's and A.J. McCarron's. Now you got to win with Bryce Young's and with Jalen Hurts's and with Tua's. And now he has Jalen Milroe, who is limited as a passer. He is. I said it last year. I didn't like what I saw from him. I said if he was Bama's guy, Bama was not going to win the SEC West. LSU would. And I still feel pretty confident about that today. So that loss obviously didn't damage Bama's division chances because Texas is at least for one more year in the Big 12. But impressive win by the Longhorns. Go on the road, get it done. By the way, briefly, and I'll talk about this more on Friday during the Vol View at 6:30 Eastern on Friday's show, but Tennessee, not a great showing against Austin Peay, only won 30-13 as a 48-point favorite. But on the bright side, I think I look at it in the sense of, hey, it's kind of a look ahead type of situation where you got Florida next week in the Swamp, haven't beaten them there in 20 years, and you overlooked Austin Peay. And offensive, we talk about timing, particularly with Joe Burrow and the Bengals being off. The timing with Milton and the wide receivers for Tennessee was just not there. Sometimes it was inaccurate passes. Sometimes they just weren't on the same page. So that's something they're going to have to get cleaned up before Florida. But Tennessee by 20. Okay, so big Monday night matchup tonight. First Monday night game of the season. Cannot wait. Very excited. Again, we'll see what the weather situation is moving forward at MetLife Stadium, but I still, given where I had the score, I still feel good about it. So if we can get the background music going right now to go and kick this thing off, Monday Night Football in 2023. Here we go. We've got the Buffalo Bills, and we've got the New York Jets. Bills on the road in MetLife Stadium, or as Aaron Rodgers dubbed it, Jet Life Stadium. 2.5-point favorites in the Meadowlands, obviously in a building where a New York team still has yet to score a touchdown, courtesy, of course, of the Dallas Cowboys doing what they did to the New York Giants. The Jets will obviously, bold prediction, the Jets are going to put points on the board, so don't have to worry about that, Jets fans and Jets Nation. My guys John, and Alfred, and Barry Grant Jr., who's a closet Jets fan. But listen, Bills are a 2.5-point favorite in this game against the Jets on the road. Here's what I'm looking at. So, folks know I predicted the Jets to win the division by one game over the Miami Dolphins, get to the playoffs. I had the Bills. That was kind of my boldest prediction in terms of playoff standings. I said the Bills would not make the playoffs. I don't know if anything really at all, other than knock on wood, God bless him, Damar Hamlin, being miraculously healed by the incredible medical professionals and by incredible prayers and support. Other than that awesome thing, I don't think anything good came out of the Buffalo Bills offseason. You have the Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, weird sort of drama. They lose Edmonds, the linebacker, in free agency. Their defensive coordinator, Leslie Frazier, just disappears in the middle of the night, just leaves, retires, fire. I don't know what the situation is. He's just gone. Like, all of a sudden, there's no Leslie Frazier. Where'd Leslie Frazier go? He's gone. So that's now 2 coordinators lost in the last 2 seasons. Buffalo's offensive line, they still can't get it right. They struggled against my Steelers, albeit it was the preseason. We saw what the Steelers looked like. But their offensive line, Buffalo's, against Pittsburgh in that preseason game was atrocious. And outside of Stephon Diggs, I tried to buy into Gabe Davis after that 4-touchdown game against Kansas City. Gabe Davis is more of a 3 than he is a 2. Buffalo's running game isn't great. And we know the Jets' defense tends to feast on... they feasted on Josh Allen last year, when we did have high expectations of the Bills and little to no expectations of the Jets, at least in the offensive side of the ball. Speaking of the Jets' offense, a big reason I think this game is going to be close. So I talked about the Bills' offensive line. The Jets is either the equivalent of that or worse. Jets have as good of a roster as we have in the National Football League. They add Aaron Rodgers, who isn't the Aaron Rodgers of old, but will bounce back, in my view, from probably the worst season of his career last season, his last year in Green Bay. You have Garrett Wilson. You have Uzama, who I think is a good tight end. Your running game's good with Breece Hall and with Dalvin Cook. We know how good the Jets' defense is, led by Sauce Gardner, Quinnen Williams. You got, what's his name? C.J. Mosley as well in that defense. DJ Reed, who's talking about they're the 85 Bears. I think that's a bit of a stretch. But the Jets' defense is excellent. Robert Saleh is an excellent head coach. I would take Robert Saleh today over Sean McDermott. Oh, my gosh. This was one of the toughest games, if not the toughest game for me to predict. Here's what it came down to. While Buffalo's chemistry is a real thing, and I genuinely understand, I don't believe in the Bills this season, but I do understand why they're favorites in this game. This, to me, is going to be a situation where both quarterbacks are going to be under pressure a lot, given the limitations of the defensive lines of both squads. I just trust the Jets, and I trust the play calling of the Jets. I can't believe I'm saying that about Nathaniel Hackett, of all people, but I trust the Jets' play calling to be unlike my Steelers, who also have a below-average offensive line, and were facing an even better defensive line than what these two teams are facing, and didn't make adjustments in terms of the fact that they had these long developmental plays with Kenny Pickett taking forever, receivers taking forever to get in and out of their routes. That's not going to be the case for the Jets. I will take the Jets to win this game, to get the upset, 26-22. That line says Bills -2. It's changed now to Bills -2.5. It's kind of fluctuated in that ballpark. I will give the Jets to win. By the way, something else too. I think this is I know it's week 1. I understand this, but a sneaky must-win for the Jets, given the fact they're going to Dallas on short rest next week. I know Aaron Rodgers owns the Cowboys, but the Giants' offensive line is better than the Jets. And Dallas abused them. What will they do to the New York Giants or to the New York Jets next week? And then obviously Patriots, you'll take care of the Patriots. Then you got Chiefs, Broncos defense, and then the Eagles. So this first 6 game, I've talked about it all offseason, ever since the schedule came out. This 6-game stretch for the New York Jets is real. It is legit. It is hard. This has got to be one of the games that they win, and in order to take this division. If they win, they're first place in the division because they beat a divisional opponent. Once again, I have the Jets winning this game, 26-22 over the Buffalo Bills. I sure hope I'm right, because I'd like to get to 500 to start this year predicting football games. I'd like to be able to have that notch on my belt, to say the least. Real quick, before we get out of here, too. God, there's just been so many topics. It is so good. It is so good to have football back. It is so good to have actual... My man Ryan Flowers, who did a fantastic job yesterday, Clutch Sports Talk, every Sunday morning on the Grid Network, and please subscribe to his channel as well. But Ryan was talking about this yesterday on his show, and I've talked about it before leading up to the season as well. I'm not against or anti talking about storylines and what ifs and he said this and they did this, and man, I just want to talk about the games. At the end of the day, that's what the NFL's founded upon. It's founded on football games. It's founded on exciting matchups like this. Bills, Jets. Can't imagine the number that it will get by ABC, ESPN. Me personally, I'm going to watch the Manning cast. Nothing against Joe Buck and Troy Aikman, but I'm going to watch the Manning cast with Peyton and Eli. Got a couple solid guests coming on their show tonight. I'll watch their breakdown of this game live on ESPN2, just for the record. But it's so good to have football back. But real quick, Colorado's 2-0. The Coach Prime haters are real quiet. I don't hear them saying nothing. Now, listen, Colorado's not going to go out and win the national championship. They're not going to. I don't even think they're going to win the Pac-12. I think USC is the favorite. I think you got Washington, Oregon, and Utah as well. Utah barely escaping with the win over Baylor. But again, culture change is unbelievable. You saw that they compared I saw a thing comparing the last Colorado game of the season, the attendance compared to the home opener against Nebraska. It's night and day. And I think in that first quarter for Colorado, you kind of saw a little bit of. Listen, these are college kids. These guys are my age. Sometimes if something goes right for us, we buy into the hype. Maybe what is Drake? Drake has the line. Don't get into hype and start to backpedal, something like that. Don't get hyped for the moment, then start to backpedal. That's what Drake said in Views, which was his best album, by the way. But that's kind of what Colorado did in the first quarter. And after that, Shedeur, after they got that turnover, Nebraska's quarterback really struggled and has struggled turning the football over. I think Sims was his name, but Shedeur was money. That 2-point conversion that ended up being ruled no good because the ball hit the turf before it was secured, that Shedeur made where he's avoiding defensive linemen. Shedeur, I still maintain Shedeur is the third best quarterback in college football and is a top 10 pick in next year's draft if he opts to enter the draft. And again, that will be his first time playing under a coach who's not dad. So that's why I think there's a possibility he potentially comes back to Colorado. That, and not just to play with his dad, but also maybe puts himself in position to be the number one pick in 2025, because Caleb was the no doubt number one pick this year, and also an opportunity to kind of build Colorado's culture. But they look good. Where are they ranked now? Because they got Colorado State. Colorado's 18th in the country. How about that? Moved up 7 spots. Listen, we keep receipts here. I thought Colorado would be in the conversation to make a bowl game. I really did, around 6-6. And I said within 2 years, this is before they announced that they were moving to the Big 12 next year. I said within 2 years they could compete for and win the Pac-12 because Deion can change culture that quick. He can recruit that well. He can coach clearly that well. Even I underestimated Deion, and I love Deion. I bought into Colorado Prime since this happened, but even I underestimated the man. So Colorado, by the way, they'll beat Colorado State next week. They're a 22-point favorite, and then they got a big national TV game against Oregon. So they got some tough games they're scheduled, but I think they'll go in that Oregon game 3-0. They'll beat Colorado State on Saturday night. All right. Also, before we get out of here, just real quick, again, I announced yesterday on Friday's show that on Carving It Up, we just surpassed 200 subscribers, and we're building and growing from that point on. Thank you so much to all those who have clicked that big red subscribe button, as I say, and took 2 seconds out of their day to do so. But, as I said on Friday, we've got a goal. I've got a goal on Carving It Up Live to get to 1,000 subscribers by Super Bowl 58, which is February 11th, I believe. So 1,000 subscribers by February 11th. We got a little under 200 days to do so, but I believe we can do it. So if you've subscribed, thank you so much. Please contact somebody else who has not subscribed. Tell them, hey, takes you 2 seconds. Just go to Carving It Up, hit that big red subscribe button. If you have not subscribed, please do so. Helps the channel grow exponentially. So, like I said, we got a big goal. That's what we do. We swing for the fences on Carving It Up Live, and we swing for the fences on the Grid Network. That's what we do. So I'm not trying to be Ichiro. I'm trying to be Barry Bonds here, okay? And I love Ichiro, by the way. Just using that as an analogy. All right, that is all the time we have for today's show. And it was a loaded show. Week 1, NFL. Week 2, crazy stuff happening in college football. This is going to be a fun next 5 months. It was so nice to just sit down at 1 o'clock until 1 o'clock because I'm on the East Coast until 11:30 and do nothing but watch football. Nothing but watch football. It was wonderful. So, obviously, we'll have more football to talk about on Wednesday. Again, we'll put up the final score one more time. I got the Jets 26 over the Bills 22. Jets get the upset at home. But like I said, be sure to catch Carving It Up live on Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time, right here on the Carving It Up YouTube channel, the Grid Network YouTube channel, and on Twitter. And again, like I said, we're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, so you know what to do. Like, share, comment. Take 2 seconds out of your day and just hit that big red subscribe button. That's all I got to do. It's that easy. That's all I got to do. And be sure to go subscribe to the Grid Network. That is GRYD, the Grid Podcast Network, right here on YouTube, as well as any and everywhere you get your favorite podcast, be it Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, any and everywhere you get your favorite podcast. And last but certainly not least, tomorrow night, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific time, just to clarify, the 8 o'clock spot. It'll be episode 6. Thus far, the new game show added to the Grid Network. I am the moderator. I hold all the power in terms of point totals. We got some crazy takes. We got a lot of fun and joking around, and it's the best game show in all of sports media. With all due respect to Around the Horn and any other sports game show, this is the spot to be. The 8 o'clock spot, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific time, tomorrow night on the Grid Network's YouTube channel and on the Grid Network's Twitter page as well. So check out 8 o'clock spot tomorrow. We got a good one dialed up, especially following week 1. Who knows what the takes are going to be like? I'm the host. I don't even know what the takes are going to be like. It's going to be incredible. Please tune in, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific time. Tell your friends about it too, the 8 o'clock spot. Everybody's invited. So very, very excited about that and where it is progressing. All right. Week 1's almost done. Bills, Jets tonight. Can't wait to watch. I'll see you on Wednesday to react to this game and to predict the Vikings-Eagles game and talk about more NFL headlines. But hope everybody has a great week. Please continue to stay safe. Please be sure to take care of your physical as well as your mental health. And please, please, please be sure to contact your local state representatives and senators to demand change for gun violence in America. And also, too, I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up the fact that today is obviously the 22-year anniversary of the attacks on September 11th. Just want to take a moment to remember those who lost their lives, the heroes who gave it all up. And let's, Congress, and you know who I'm referring to, let's work on giving these incredible men and women their benefits while they're still with us and give them the proper respect and the rights that they deserve and have earned as some of the best of us here in this great country. So God bless them, and let's not forget those who were lost in the attacks of September 11th. So we got a game tonight. You got Bills Jets. I'm going to go up and watch it 30 minutes from now. Here we go. See you on Wednesday. God bless you all. Peace out. I hope I come to you happier, though, with some Steelers games. Jeez. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.